What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. A third week in a row where Andrew P. Katz and myself, Chris Kay, talk college football via burning the red shirt. This is weird. 3 weeks in a row, we've almost lost track of like what we can actually talk about. We're kind of using all of our ideas and topics.
Is it three? I don't remember 2 weeks ago. I remember last week.
3 out of 4, maybe. No, it was 3. I'm pretty sure it was 3 in a row. If it wasn't, someone check me on it. But I don't know, man. How's the slate of action going for you so far? What's the what are you trying to find out? What edge are you trying to gain right now?
Dude, I felt, I mean, there's more depressing things than this, but just I'm realizing in real time, it feels like I'm listening to the same weekly segments of pods that I listen to, not weekly, but it feels like it's just like one day after the next. Like the season's just flying by. Like how's it week 11 already? Like it feels like I'm listening to, like I just listened to week 10's cover 3 locks pod that they do on Thursdays. Like it feels like I just listened to that yesterday, and like we're already at like another week. I don't know. It
is a little depressing, isn't it?
Yeah. Why can't the off season go this quick?
I don't know. I think from a betting perspective, we love the season, but I think sometimes I feel like the off season is more fun. Like once like June or July hits, obviously the February to May is just brutal. But yeah, this mine will probably be quick, this 2025, but probably not yours.
It'll be interesting to see what the offseason looks like with like underdog basketball being a thing for now.
See, that's a big one because I don't know what they're going to do, but they made it sound like they're going to evolve it from what they have currently done.
They've got a million different options if they want to take them, right? They can do like weird like conference level stuff, but like
G5, include everybody. You could do P4 again. I don't know.
Like
I think they have a great spot.
Though. There's a balancing act. Like when do you really want to kick things off, given how much movement there is likely to be?
I'd say there's a little bit, but like there's not that much changing from like July 1st to July 30th. So like there's certainly some stuff, but like they can't wait too long.
So you think they'll launch in March?
I'm hoping they launch in March. Yeah, that's the goal. But I think there's definitely a sweet spot. It's not March or April or May.
Do you think people are enjoying the product of underdog college football season long best ball? Or
I think so. Yeah, the big tournaments, the small best ball stuff. I don't know. You probably get no fun out of it. The only reason why I like the Champion Series stuff is because I like to see how I'm doing against people that I like go chat with the entire year. If I'm just looking at it from like a versus everybody, like I actually care if I finished 5th or 6th this year in Champion Series.
Do you?
Because like I want to get ahead of Mike and I want to make sure I'm ahead of guys, right? So then I don't have bragging rights on you or the top 3 or 4, but like no one, Mike can't talk shit to me anymore if I finish one spot ahead of him,
That's funny.
So but like if you don't know anybody, like do you really care if you finish 5th or 6th? You're like, oh, I'm out of the money. But I feel like a lot of people
I'm curious mainly from the perspective of the evolution of the underdog like season long big tournament best ball product. You would think that any evolution will come from the research and insights that they gain relative to this first year's, like, what's the feedback? Right. So like, does it look something like this where the people who bathe in CFB 24/7 enjoy it and everyone else is like, fuck, well, all my teams are in 12th or 11th place. Like that wasn't enjoyable. I'm not running it back with that. Or does it look different than that?
I have a new underdog rule. I'm a tattoo on my chest. You ready?
What?
I came up with this morning. I think it's pretty dead on. Don't draft quarterback. Don't draft a decent bit of quarterback, running back, receiver, tight end on a team that finishes or is currently 1-7.
Is this a Michigan? No.
This is Purdue. I sprinkled so much Adrien, Maccabee, Card, and Claire's the only guy that's been good.
Yeah.
He's a tight end, but I didn't get enough of them.
I think I'm going to
avoid 1-7 teams next year.
Yeah, I was out on them, and then I was like, you guys sold it so well. I was like, oh, let me start drafting some card. So I wasn't doing much with Purdue until you and Mox, you sold it really well. And so I've got a non-trivial amount of card, a couple of things of that Edrine guy who owned it, who isn't very good, but I do have some Claire as well. So
you benefited a little bit from our
he's the man. Yeah, he goes over every week.
He's awesome. But I do think the takeaway from it is like there's got to be a line of demarcation of like your team has to win X amount of games. Like we should probably look at Vegas totals and just eliminate every single team that is projected to win less than 5 games. Like if the over under is 5 or 5.5, then like you're good to go. But if you're under that, I'm not touching you. Well, Purdue's over under had to have been like 3.5 going into the year, right?
Yeah, I don't think it was very good.
Like even if you look at like what was Virginia's couldn't have been that great. And Malachi Fields has been good, but I don't know if he's necessarily returned value on where he was being picked.
Yeah,
because it's not PPR. It's half point PPR is the problem, right? I think that's something I'll focus on too, is the fact that like PPR matters, half point PPR matters.
The counter to this, right, is the dynamic nature and roster turnover and lack of predictability and associated with a team from one year to the next, right? If you're just trying to like base off of base strategy off of how teams are projected by Vegas at like the beginning of the year, like some of those are so off. Like the teams that I maybe like you throw into a separate bucket for consideration, at least teams that had insane roster turnover just because they have it could go in either direction, right? It could be a total disaster or like they could be really good and useful.
Yeah, I'm going to look at this because I don't disagree. I think there's obviously edge cases, right? Like if Washington's number was 6.5, right? Or 7.5. They qualified. So they still would have been fine. But I do think like you could go by the books of saying Vegas and then take care of the edge cases. Or you could just say, do I think this team wins 6 games? And if I think so, then you can do it. I'm willing to bet. I wish I would have investigated and done this beforehand. Like if I look at our P4 best ball draft from the offseason and then take a look at every player, every position, I'm willing to bet like the top 25 at each position, there's not one player that team is going to win less than 5 games.
Interesting.
I feel like this is something that Nick Ian Allen would crush because he's got all those data tables and stuff. And I'm actually going to look at this after the fact.
Put him on the case.
Yeah, I'll put him on the case. You said in pre-show, we're going to divert a little bit. You said in pre-show, you think this will be a fun week. I think the slate of games is cool. I don't think there's like the drooler matchup. I think the drooler matchup of the week is Bama LSU or Georgia Ole Miss, right?
Right.
But you said you think a lot of upsets could happen. Why do you think that's the case this weekend?
So run through the top 25 games or just filter by top 25. And I feel like, I don't know how many there are, like maybe 15 to 20 games in there, right? Because some teams have buys and then some play each other. I feel like you can't get to more than 5 games where you say ironclad, there's no way that the higher ranked team is losing.
So you're basically saying that the favorite will win the game.
No.
You're saying the higher ranked team.
So if you go through all the games involving top 25 teams. Can you find 5 ironclad? There's no way this team is losing.
Okay. Ohio State over Purdue.
Yeah.
Texas over Florida.
I agree.
Oregon over Maryland.
I agree.
Tennessee over Mississippi State.
Are you sure?
Notre Dame over FSU, but then
Are you sure it's Tennessee?
Yes.
Okay.
And if you want to say maybe half of it, but Boise over Nevada, yeah. But that's it. Okay. So 6.
6, yeah.
You could, yeah. Washington State, Utah State gets close, but I have faith in the Cougars. But we won't count. But you're right. I mean, there's a ton of them.
I went to bed at halftime of the Washington State game against San Diego State. Did you see they were down 12 in the 4th quarter?
I did not, but I saw they won by like 3, right? It was too tight. So we're not including that. But you're right. I think 5 or 6 are super tight. One of the things that Nick said in our CC, I I think he said something to the effect of like a lot of home underdogs this week, or enough of them that makes it interesting. Like Texas Tech's a home underdog to Colorado, LSU's home dog to Bama, Missouri is a home dog, even somehow they're ranked, to Oklahoma. So there's a lot of them. Utah home dog to BYU in the Storm and Mormon Challenge. So yeah, there's a lot of them. Clemson's a road, Virginia Tech's a home dog. So there's a lot of home dogs, but
Kansas
against Iowa State, a lot of like 3-point spreads.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you're right, and I think that pushes the shot at a lot of some underdogs winning at home. I mean, home is pretty important in college football, and a lot of like 3-point spreads too.
Army North Texas.
Is Army North Texas another one?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yeah, a 5.5-point spread. What did you think about Jalen Glover's comments about BYU Utah? Did you see that?
No.
Someone asked him about the rivalry, and he said like he's never played in it before, but obviously it's a big game. And then he said they bleeped it out, but I'm fairly sure he said BYU. It's the Cold War. Of course, I'm excited for it.
So he got it wrong.
And he said F BYU.
I mean, he doesn't seem like the sharpest guy, right? Like, yeah, a lot of the stuff that you've read, that you can read about him is like maybe not exactly straightforward, saying that like the reason he's not getting playing time is off the field related stuff, but more or less that feels like it's a decent amount of that. And then in conjunction with that, so the guy came into the program even if it was kind of below the mainstream hype, right? There was hype in our community, hype within Utah about him, and it doesn't feel like when he's gotten on the field, like he's gotten the opportunity, hasn't translated. Like, what does that come back to? Does it come back to what he's putting into things from a practice perspective? Who's to say? But like, I don't know. The guy, like, he probably doesn't need to put his foot in his mouth. I don't know why he's getting media time, considering like he played week 1 and then basically vanished from the face of the earth for off the field reasons until this most recent week. Like, why are you putting him in front of a microphone?
Makes no sense. The exact quote, by the way, I pulled it up. "Excuse my language, but F BYU, man. I've never been a part of the Cold War, but I'm excited now." And then he says a little bit more, but not relevant to the conversation.
How are they going to keep this close? They might start that dude, Brandon Rose, right? Or it might even get worse than that.
I think there's like a national bias against BYU in terms of like the books love to put like disgrace BYU with their lines. Like, weren't they underdog to UCF at one point a week or two ago? Fishy lines out of that camp. And so that's why I think like this, how are they 3.5-point favorites? It feels like it should be more than that.
Agreed. I mean, Rice Eccles, generally speaking, historically, you don't just walk in there and catch a W, but this Utah team is like, when was the last time we saw them play not terribly?
Yeah, I think there's a difference too, right? Like, I think in the rivalry, anything can happen, especially one like BYU Utah, but like, this is a really bad Utah team. Utah just lost to Houston, didn't they? Like, and I get it, it's at Utah, but the spread of 3.5 is interesting to me. Any shot? Are you surprised I didn't include Michigan, Indiana in the no shot Michigan wins category?
Not entirely. What's the real reason for optimism, right? It's that time in the week where I'm considering Davis Warren passing unders.
Over
kind of high this week.
Yeah, if it's 120, 130, disgraceful. You got to go over. But if it's like in the 150s, you can't do that. You can't go over that.
160, and based on what we've seen from Indiana, they don't strike me as the kind of team that is just going to let you backdoor 80 yards down the field in the final drive or two. They're keeping the foot on the gas and trying to get brownie points with the committee and like win by 50.
Yeah, they need to impress. Yeah. They definitely are in the camp of like, we can't just win. We need to, because I think they're hoping for seeding, right? Yeah. So I think they definitely are in the they have to impress and win big. 150, 160 is just a lot of yards for like a bad offense. Like Colston Loveland can catch only so many passes.
Correct.
So yeah, I don't think Indiana has any trouble with Michigan. Route me towards a Michigan win. How does that happen?
Rourke re-injures his thumb.
And that's it?
The ground game works magically.
Okay.
Orgy runs for 2 bills.
2 bill. Okay, now we're getting crazy. You want me to route you toward? Do you think Ole Miss has a shot against Georgia?
Yeah, I think so. Harris and Watkins are definitely playing, right? Even though they're doubtful.
Like I was talking to Ethan about this on Campus to Caching, and which is probably by now. But this felt like a situation where Harris sat with the intention of playing in this game.
Correct.
So I would imagine he's in for sure.
Did you record before the injury report came out?
We recorded Wednesday, so yes, probably.
Yeah,
yes,
so
I think so.
You saw Watkins is listed doubtful as well, right?
Watkins is doubtful.
According to the injury. Like Lane's just making a mockery of it playing games. I would be interested in betting either one of them playing or both of them playing which you would think based on a doubtful tag, I could get nice odds on that. I think they both play. There's so much variability associated with the game. Like the only thing that makes me there's as a Georgia fan, right? I could talk myself into a couple different things, right? Think about how many F-bombs are going to be in Kirby's speech this week, his pregame speech. That thing is going to be there's no way you could air any of that. It's gonna be amazing.
It's gonna be like 60%.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. Kirby versus Lane is just laughable from a big game perspective. Like I am very interested to see what our defensive game plan is, like, and just do we just unleash like we did on Texas, right? I don't think that like if we could do that kind of just send crazy pressure type shit, I don't think that bodes well for Dart and gang. They're like, what are they going to do in terms of trying to run the ball at all? You'd think they're going to be incredibly one dimensional with no Parrish. So I don't know. How does that work in football? Like if you know that team isn't going to run the ball at all, what does that translate to from a defensive perspective? Do you just rush straight at the passer every time, or I don't know. I won't pretend I actually understand football.
I mean, I think if they know you're never going to run it, then you definitely are in a good spot defensively.
Yeah, it's like another variable, right? Like how many picks is Carson Beck throwing? I haven't read too much up on ETN. I kind of think he doesn't go. What do you think?
I can't imagine he goes. The guy, they said they like basically avoided barely like a full season injury.
Oh, really?
They said that they were hoping that some rib injury, like a displacement or something, didn't happen, and it didn't happen. But like that doesn't scream to me you play the next week.
Yeah.
What did he come out as on the injury report? Questionable?
Oh, good question. I didn't look. I was so laser focused on the 26-person Ole Miss injury side of things.
They put 26 there.
Yeah.
Is Rashad Amos on that, by the way?
Probable.
Yeah,
I was shocked to see it. I think I don't know. I operated for weeks under the assumption that he's quiet quitting and like transferring out and redshirting, and like have rostered him accordingly, praying he goes back to the G5 in Dynasty. But it was interesting seeing him have a probable tag this week.
I think he's got one more game he can play before I think so.
Interesting.
As Mox likes to joke, people 8th place is in trouble in those underdog leagues because I'm coming for him with Amos. Speaking of dynasty leagues and holding somebody because you think they're going to stay back, you guys really let me get Malik Sherrod in the OG Dynasty League.
So does he have the magic number of 4?
He's at 4. He hasn't touched the field since 4. He played the 4 of the first 5, I think, and he hasn't played since.
Wonder what he does. I mean,
I don't know if he screams at me like system back, so I don't think he could go to P4.
yeah, but he could do the annoying, like, let me go get a little bag and like be the third part of a committee at the P5. It's a nice wild card though, right? Can't good use of a dynasty spot from a forward thinking perspective.
Couldn't believe he was available. I don't even know why I even found it, but I had so.
Dude, it's a little early actually. I don't know if we could talk about this.
Uh-oh.
How much money do you have left in OG?
I don't have any money left in OG.
Are you lying so that I talk about something?
I do not have any money left in OG. I spent
right.
it all on Sherrod. I was like, I'm not missing Sherrod. What's that?
Did you watch Maction last night?
Oh, I lie. I have $18 left in OG.
All right. I think I bid 30.
Are you picking up that? You're gonna try to pick up that random quarterback for Ken?
No, the Northern Illinois running back who went nuclear after Brown obviously is out for the season after whatever that was.
Well, you know what I'm going to do because of the way that system works. I'm going to, what's his name?
Gavin Williams.
Yeah, Gavin Williams. Nice. I'm on it. This is the second time mid-show, by the way, I've been prompted to do something in the Dynasty League. Yesterday, I was prompted to pick up, I dropped Ikeka Ragsdale.
Oh, yeah.
In Nate League. And then Ethan's like, yeah, I think he might come back and he might play. And I'm like, wait a second, what? Like, so then I ran and grabbed him real quick mid-show.
But you can't keep someone in that league after.
I'm not able to keep him now. It's a bummer. But dude's been injured, like serious injuries, like 3 times. Which is a bummer. I've picked up some cool players in that, and I get it, and I don't have an issue with the rule at all. But I picked up some cool players, I feel like, and then it's a bummer that I'm just going to end up obviously not having them. But
I know. I was like on Saturday morning. It was so last weekend was just boys' weekend. Me and Elijah, Amelia, and Margaret were on vacation. They went to Charlottesville. Took an Amtrak train down. Enjoyed themselves. But so as you can imagine, Elijah and myself, Elijah being 3-year-old, like I wasn't exactly able to devote 100% of my time to a lot of the things that I do Saturday morning from a CFF perspective. But I was planning on trying to get Caden Anderson in a bunch of spots. I got him in one league and started him actually against New Mexico, and that was nice. But now I can't. I missed the window to get him in Nate's league and keep him for next year. And I think I put in claims for him this week. I can't remember if I got, or I don't know. I'm so bad with waivers. I'm pretty sure I didn't get him in nearly as many spots as I wanted to. But let's go back. So Telly Johnson, the Northern Illinois kid, dude, that kid looked awesome. He's going to shred the MAC for the next however many years until he transfers out. Zach got Caden in OG. The Gaul.
The Gaul, yeah. An interesting guy I picked up. Have you heard of this Micah Mays guy from Wake Forest?
I've heard the name, but it doesn't mean anything to me.
I think he's a true freshman that's getting like legitimate snaps and targets. Do we still like Wake Forest as like a receiver spot, or do we think that's fizzling?
I think that the best way to think about it for now is not a prioritization, but later in drafts, right, when you're if you're decisioning between like the number 3 receiver on Alabama or LSU, or the potential spot in number 1 spot in a system that historically has been fruitful, like that is the sort of flyer I would prefer to take. So potential value proposition down the road.
Okay. Does Tyler Huff have any eligibility left?
No, 6th year.
You sure?
I'm sure about 6th year. I'm not sure about no eligibility. I was questioning Trey Stewart. Do you have an answer to that one?
We talked about that last week. I still have no idea, Trey Stewart.
Oh, okay.
What about, here's a guy that I interested. I look at my roster and Nate always makes fun of me. 90% of the time he's valid with this. Am I dumb for holding on to Nate Johnson? He's the Vanderbilt quarterback for those that are unaware, which is sad that I even have to mention that because that means he's really not done anything.
Probably not going to happen.
What does Vandy do next year, though? Right?
That dude can fly. Like, he's got crazy wheels.
Is he big enough to handle the Diego usage?
Who can besides
Who can,
Diego,
right?
who is running that system like Diego does?
I guess the question really needs to be, what does Vandy do next year? Do you think they just hit the portal like super hard again and just do that every year, which is weird because it's Vanderbilt. It's not like New Mexico where you would imagine academically it's not hard to. It is hard to do at Vandy, whereas like a G5 maybe not so much.
Is Diego definitely done?
Yeah, he's got to be. I think he was like a third year guy the first year he was at New Mexico State.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they do.
It's baffling because they've picked up steam, man. They're 6-3, right? Like legitimate top 25 team, and it's like, what's next for them? And they're even doing renovations and stuff too.
Right, home underdogs against South Carolina this week.
Yeah, I'm not really into the South Carolina thing. You think they're actually good?
I don't know. I think that game's just interesting from the perspective of like who is. They're both, but like if you buy into like the spot stuff for a game, like who's in a good spot, who's in a bad spot, like aren't they both in terrible spots this week, coming off of big wins, like type of letdown type stuff. Some props just dropped for that game. I feel like I bet Cedric Alexander rushing under every single week, and it's always really close, and it's been pretty good to me. I'll probably bet it again.
He's like the 15 carries a game, but he runs for like 3.4 a carry. So he's
been banged up for weeks too.
Yeah,
that he like. I feel like he's never hitting his projected workload, and he's not being efficient. So it's like, okay, this is fine.
You know what game is really interesting to me, and I guess they're not in the same spot. I think, and this is partially because I'm so annoyed with how they played last week. I think Washington can beat Penn State. Is that a crazy thing to think about, or a crazy thing to say?
In the whiteout?
I don't care about the whiteout. Give me a receiver that can catch a pass for Penn State, and then I'll consider you good.
Yeah, I'm a little worried that they're going to use this bullshit game to just have all the media jerk off to Tyler Warren again, right? Like feed him the 15 touches in a national spotlight game. So that is a troubling consideration.
National spotlight, but it's on Peacock.
Oh, that's nice.
So can it really be that? So can it really be that national spotlight? Which is going to be annoying because I have the quad box and I won't be able to use it on the quad box.
Fair.
Do you know where Washington ranks in terms of like defense?
It's like number 1 in passing, right?
Number 2 pass yards allowed, number 21 in scoring defense, and I feel like their run D is good, but I don't see them they're 71st in run D, so not.
But you know where this goes as we dive deeper, right? It's a product of their schedule almost entirely.
Yeah, but they've played real teams. They've played more real teams than Indiana.
Who have they played who can pass the ball outside of USC?
Washington State.
Yes and no, right? Like, would you like? I know how we think about Washington State, but do you ever watch? Like, Mateer has gotten a little better as a passer. Early on in the season, every single game I would enter watching that game, thinking like, this dude looks so nervous. He's overthrowing everyone on the first drive. Like, it took him a full like quarter and change to settle in and just not look like he's about to get benched. I disqualify that as a point of evidence.
USC.
How did that go? They gave up like 290, right?
On 50 attempts.
And what happened to their quarterback?
The quarterback, they benched a quarterback because of Washington playing.
So they gave up. So they gave up 290 to a second string quarterback.
No. They gave up 290 to a first string quarterback who got demoted. What's Jaden Maeva going to do? You like coming off the bye week? Great timing, by the way. If you're going to bench a quarterback and go to a different backup, like bye week's one hell of a time to do it.
Yeah, that news got reported really weird. I stared at being able to add him for like 5 hours because it got reported by 247 like in the middle of the night, and I was looking at like adding him at that window and just didn't pull the trigger, and now I kind of regret it. But the schedule doesn't look great, right? I believe 2 of his last 3 games are UCLA, who, I mean, it's widely documented how much they've been improving as the season's progressed. Good for them. And then Notre Dame, which is just like that is in no way a good matchup, right? So how useful is this guy going to be in the playoff run?
And Nebraska, who like if you're saying like if that's one of my last three games, I don't necessarily love that. I mean, it's at home, but still, like, I don't love facing Nebraska. Nebraska is one of those another fraudulent, haven't played anybody type teams. What's up with that in the Big Ten? How did the Big Ten do that? Like, how did Washington and Indiana and Nebraska avoid all these like superstar teams? Like, did Oregon face any of those teams?
No, it is weird how, I mean, the SEC did some similar stuff. How these teams, I mean, in some ways, it's probably, what's the right way of thinking about it? Like, the teams that have risen to the top of the standings in some ways, I think, like, it's a result of their schedule more than the opposite. The SEC has a lot of that stuff going on too. Like, you look at it outside of like Georgia's schedule, a lot of the teams that are playing well, like, their schedules are trash.
Yeah, sneak that in. I didn't just see that. By the way, you knew the answer to Oregon because Oregon plays Washington. Washington's schedule is getting steep at Penn State versus UCLA at Oregon.
Yeah.
So that means UCLA's schedule is a little interesting then because they have Washington. Wow, they have 4 left: Iowa, Washington, USC, Fresno State. Why did they play Fresno State on Thanksgiving weekend?
That's fun.
That's completely random. Is Penn State one of those teams that's at the top because they ain't played nobody?
Yeah, pretty much. Should have lost to USC, right?
You asking me? Yeah, I'm such a Penn State hater now. I'm so annoyed by their lack of ability to throw a downfield pass. Like, that's, people made fun of JJ McCarthy for like not throwing the football, but like his receivers weren't that much better, if at all better, than what Penn State has. And Drew Aller can only throw it to a tight end. Like, what is his stats if he doesn't throw it to Tyler Warren?
Yeah, Harrison Wall's supposed to be that dude, right? Like the Penn State receiver that shows up in big time, but not so much this past week. And if you don't have that, I don't know. It's tough. I mean, what was the stat? Was like 5 targets for 50 yards against Ohio State.
Yeah, and he had that tough. Aller had that good pass in the corner of the end zone that ended up being intercepted. Just an insane interception. But is there any way, we were talking earlier about injuries and guys that like could play, probably not going to play. Do you think DJ Lagway plays?
No. Do you think Haynes King plays?
Yes.
Yeah, I do too. It's interesting.
But the line doesn't make me think that he plays though. Miami -11.
Good point. It's interesting though that we got props for his receivers that are very indicative of him playing. If he doesn't play, that is like an amazing opportunity.
Yeah, I would agree with that. What about Kyron Drones? You think he plays?
What happened? What, I don't understand why you.
Dude, no idea. No idea. No
and
idea.
All of a sudden, everyone's fully practicing. They're like nothing happened.
I should have seen the Tootin stuff coming though, to be honest, because he was I think he was listed on the injury. No, he came out of the game probable, is what they said. Jalen Lane was like, I know him, he's gonna play.
Yeah, he's drama queen.
Should have seen that coming. And then he didn't practice at all on Friday. But I was like, in my head, I'm like, I bet over and got lucky he didn't play. But I should have seen it coming because you don't practice on the day before the game. It's probably not load management. You load manage on like Tuesday, Wednesday, not on Friday.
Right.
So give me an upset. You talked about there's gonna be upsets. Do you think that this could be a crazy weekend? Give me an upset.
Mississippi State, Tennessee.
No way.
Zach has to edit that out. Okay. I think Iowa State loses to Kansas. It's only 3-point spread, right? What do you ever do anything with Iowa State running backs from a prop perspective?
No, it's not worth it.
we get a couple listed every week. Like I would never bet over on any of them. But
you can't possibly bet over on any of them. You're just really just trying to hit the under.
You see Sama is back after last week? 13 carries for 74 yards.
Sama's like a curse word to me now after I took him over Jeremiah Smith.
If what's his name? Bryson Daly doesn't go, Chandler and Gang are gonna take down Army, I think.
Do you think Chandler is gonna have a great game regardless? Like, do you get worried at all about the Army matchup?
The concern is how many possessions. Right. I'm starting him where I have him, and I have other good options as well. Like I think I'm starting him over Haj Malik at Hawaii and Salter against Middle Tennessee. For now, at least, I think that you can quibble with that, and maybe I'll end up swapping it. But right now, like I don't know. I just imagine Army's defense is like a bunch of 5'8" corners. I don't know if it's true or not. Like I don't think they slow down North Texas much, but the concern is just like, is this like that kind of game where Dwayne Coleman, you look at the box score and there's no passing line for Dwayne Coleman because they didn't attempt to pass, and it's just like they ran the ball 85 times. Right. And what does that look like from a possession perspective?
Yeah, the problem there is that Army is like 4th in the country in time of possession.
Yeah.
Counterpoint to that would be that North Texas is like 106th. So clearly they don't care about time of possession.
Yeah.
Right? Like if they're going to score a ton of points on one of the bottom 30 time of possessions, bottom 35, I feel pretty good about it. I'm not worried about necessarily the matchup. I think the consensus is like, do you ever enjoy playing like in fantasy a guy against Army, Navy, etc., or Iowa, like the ones that just milk the clock for the entire minute?
Hennigan went. Memphis dropped like 44 on Navy in that one game, right? And I benched Chandler against Tulane, and that was a mistake. Because he threw for like 450 and went for like 50 points. So feels pretty matchup proof against teams of the G5 level.
I think you have to play Morris because Army gave up 256 to Rice, 224 to Temple, 242 to UAB, 282 to East Carolina. So I think basically teams with a pulse.
Does Chandler transfer again after this year?
Does he or can he?
Does he?
His dad coaches there, right? Or is that's the fake last name Morris? Or is this a situation where people thought he was the dad, but he's not the dad? I think his dad is like the quarterback coach or something.
Good. So Eric Morris is not his dad. Eric Morris is the head coach, right? But I think his dad might be on staff. I don't remember what Chad's doing these days.
I can find out real quick. I just go to Chandler Morris's profile and see if his father Chad is the current pass game coordinator at Texas State. He ain't. Could he go to Texas State?
Something's rotten there, dude. Like maybe the writing was on the wall a little bit in some ways. Like my season long stuff on the whole, I'm gonna end up regardless, I think, of what dumb shit happens down the stretch in terms of like season long futures, consolidate them all from like player props and like win totals and stuff like that. I think I'll be fine. I'll end up a decent amount, but nothing insane, unless a certain award winner comes through. But my Texas State stuff, it's all just like, wow, that was a waste of money. Great job.
You talk about like best balls or like actual props?
I wasn't considering best ball for that, but that should work out well too. I'm excited. I'm so excited to see like how underdog playoffs play out.
Well, I was talking Texas State, so I'm curious. Looking.
You were talking about
Hobart and
yeah.
Jordan.
I know. I was thinking about this purely through the lens of like betting, like sportsbook stuff.
Yeah, it feels underwhelming from the Texas State passing attack, doesn't it?
That team sucks, dude. Like there's like Kinney's done a bunch of good things, but even like last year, there were signs of like dude, what the fuck are you doing? Like that Arkansas State game from last year still sits in the back of my mind and comes to the forefront of times. It's like, how do you lose 77-31 to that Arkansas State team, and Jalen Rayner throws for 120 yards and they run for like 500 on you?
With like
And
special
then like
teams and defensive touchdowns and stuff.
then
Yeah.
the Jaden Delores stuff this offseason, it's like, really? That was, you tried to hitch your wagon to that? Like and then like just they lose these games for like there's no way with their talent, with their system that they have in place, like there's no way they should be losing some of these games. And I don't understand like what, like you had 2 weeks to prepare for some of these as well, and like how do you come out that flat and just do nothing? Like I don't know. It's not like we have a window into what's going on there, but I have a feeling that like maybe culturally there's some stuff that's just not great.
I mean, didn't have a good start to the year with the Jane Delora stuff. It's definitely a red flag.
Better.
Two things happened on Thursday that could be worth mentioning. Jonte Cook no longer with Texas. Any thoughts there?
The few times that we've seen him on the field, like he always stands out to me. I'm like, that dude looks super talented. Does he wind up at Uga?
So Jared in the Slack goes, where does he end up? And then he said, or better question, how fast does he drive? I was like, wow, Jared, that's like nailed it.
Yeah. So I hate on a lot of like the transfer ads that Kirby has made. I think like at the wide receiver position, I think they're just like glorified, like average guys that like get propped up because we get them. But I would love to get Jonte. I think that dude would be a rock star.
You think so? He hasn't really done anything.
Every time he gets on the field, he looks good to me, man.
It's hard because they have really not given a ton of snaps to like receivers besides the top 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And like people really like Bond and Golden and like even like Bolden, but it's kind of a red flag to me when you're like the 4th or 5th option and like DeAndre Moore is outproduced you.
Yeah.
And like Wingo has been a better offensive player and he's a true freshman. I don't know. And he didn't do anything last year.
Yeah. For sure.
He'll get the boost. He'll get the London Humphreys boost.
He's going to be the number 1 guy in the portal once he commits.
Yeah. Okay. Other bit of news, somewhat related to Georgia. Billy Napier. They said Florida says we're keeping him as head coach.
Did I say that?
They just came out and said it. Florida's announced they're sticking with Napier as its head coach. We
love to see that, right? Keep them in their irrelevant state kind of type deal.
Yep. Nate and I have number one thing that Nate and I can agree on is if you ask your rival what you should do and you do it, you're making the wrong decision. I.e., if you're Georgia, you just said it. Oh, hell yeah. I would love Billy Napier to be at Florida forever. Then you should fire Billy Napier. Right? So like that's the easiest way to determine your like how great would your decision making be if you just did that? You'd probably
it's neighborhood polling.
Yeah. Nice. Yes, exactly. How do you not ask every team in the SEC like low key, yo, like Vandy, should we keep Napier? And they're like, oh yeah, you should definitely keep Napier. And then you should get rid of him. Like, what are we doing? I don't know. I don't know if I like that one. Here's a random thought. Is you like Cam Ward as the Heisman, or you like Travis Hunter, or do you think GT somehow steals it?
I bought into Travis Hunter 2 weeks ago at plus 400, plus 500. So I'm here. Last year I got involved in Heisman late as well when it was like became clear that like all the people with outsized influence are going to use their influence to try and get Jaden Daniels the award. I think that the same thing will happen here with Travis Hunter. Like people who have influence that are gonna try and pump their bags and get him to the finish line will do it. So I'll hitch some money to that and get along for the ride, and I think we'll get it to the finish line.
All right, so maybe the question is how does Ward win or how does Hunter lose? If Cam Ward goes 13-0 ACC championship, he's got to be the favorite, right?
I guess it's like you can draw that straight line path fairly easily. I think that the more so Colorado getting to the conference championship game I don't think it's totally necessary, but like that is very helpful, and I think it will happen.
You think so? I don't think it's all that likely. Do you?
It became a lot more likely after this past weekend. I need to look into the tiebreakers a little more. I need to look into tiebreakers a little more. I think I jumped the gun with a little bit some of my conclusions there, but you're gonna hear all this Ohtani shit with Travis Hunter. You're gonna hear all these unique claims and qualifiers about him that are very compelling arguments, and I think it become that are very different to counter because there aren't traditional counter arguments to that. You're going to hear about his unicorn nature, his uniqueness, how he's the Ohtani of college football and stuff. I think that like there's going to be a hard sales pitch in that regard.
I mean, it's pretty insane that he plays both ways.
Yeah.
I mean, no doubt. Like he's going to get love because of that similar Ohtani type stuff. But Cam Ward plays nobody the rest of the way. It's almost a lock. They go 12-0.
No, if Haynes King goes this week, they could lose. Syracuse plays a decent game, they could lose.
You're not beating Miami. They're not going to let Miami lose.
So that's the problem, right? You're facing the Miami and the officials.
You're facing Miami and the officials, and you're not. Syracuse is not good enough. Sorry, Virginia Tech should have beaten them with a backup quarterback and a backup running back. Like if maybe that's something we can talk about here is Brent Pry. But there's just no way Miami loses out. There's no way. They're not going to let it happen. Plus, they're just better. They're just better. Although I am a little concerned about Miami's defense letting Malik Murphy hit his over by like 80 yards. That your defense should never do that.
Right.
So yeah, Brent Pry. I mean, from an outsider, what do you think about Brent Pry? We've talked about this.
I've long thought this dude is a fraud. He's like, there's worse coaches, right? And you would like with Miami, right? We've kind of seen improvement in some of those areas with the assistance of the officials. Like it feels like Mario Cristobal either is not in a position to or has not been making as many F-ups that to potentially cost his team games this year. Like you could just hire people to do stuff like that, right? To like advise you on the correct or more correct thing or decisions in crunch time relative to what you were doing. Like the idea that needs to just fall all on the head coach to make a snap decision in the moment. Like that should, I don't know if that necessarily like needs to be something that we judge head coaches on in terms of their ability to do that job. Like, I don't know if that needs to be a qualifier. I don't know if like that needs to rest on head coach's shoulders. I'm like, I know it's like a very common opinion at this point, but I believe that like head coach probably shouldn't be calling plays, probably shouldn't be owning and at a granular level a given side of the ball. CEO model is a great model, and like the one, if you have big dreams for your program, the one that like you should be embracing.
Yeah, I think he is an extreme culture guy. Like he fits the mold of like what like a Virginia Tech coach is probably like should be and look like. But his like decision making is just the absolute worst. Just they need to just, and I originally, you know, it was like, oh, Tyler Bowen, the offensive coordinator, was maybe overwhelmed, but he's actually been pretty good. He's doing weird creative stuff, and he scored 31 points with Schley and Malachi Thomas as like the backfield. So he's done well, but it's strictly Pry and his inability to make decision making at the drop of a hat, which they should just hire somebody. Somebody was like, they should hire Jerry Kill. Like get like a Jerry Kill, bring him back. The one thing that I found extremely interesting, wild to think about. So he's won 15 or 16 games at Virginia Tech. He's won one game by single digits. So he won 23-22 in 2022. So they won by one. Here are all the other differentials for the other 14, 15 games. 17 and 20. Then it was 19, 17, 17, 28, 26, 38, 21, 17, 20, 24, 21, 15. Guy can't win a close game. Every single win is basically 17 points or more.
Yeah.
Which at first is cool until you realize that you're 15 and 16 and like you've played tight games. So
yeah, just farm that decision making out. Like it's whatever. Nice to see Schlee not fall on his face though. I didn't catch much of the game. Did he actually look good?
He kind of had like some gunslingerness to him. It was actually kind of cool.
That's our boy.
Yeah, it was kind of cool. He slung it a little bit. And Schlee, he just was taking hit after hit and he was like in it. He was diving in it. I think Colin Schlee has another year.
Stop.
I think he does. He played 2020 and he barely played 2021. So I think he has the reason why I thought he has another year is because I'm fairly sure. Oh, he barely played in 2021, but he played in like every game. I was playing NCAA football and I'm fairly positive in year 2 of a dynasty, I saw Colin Schlee's name.
Nice.
I don't know how we get there, but hopefully we do get there.
Yeah.
I guess on that note, did you see my cryptic tweet about we don't like to tamper on Twitter unless it's on BTR?
No.
Disappointing in you. All right, I'll read it out loud to you. Maybe you can decipher who I'm talking about.
All right.
Said, I'm not here for tampering in college football. And I said, okay, yes, if it's on the Burning the Red Shirt podcast. And so with that, I'll be vague with this gut feeling. A certain unmanned aircraft will be playing on a team who plays football on a flat area of land with very little trees next season.
Is this about Bryce Underwood?
No.
True.
It's just Kyron Drones to Auburn. Doesn't it make sense? Don't you think he'll just excel at Auburn?
Yeah. Why do you have faith in Hugh Freeze doing anything?
I just think that if Kyron Drones was smart, he would see the large amount of money that Hugh Freeze is willing to pay.
Yeah. When was the last time we saw Hugh Freeze run a good offense?
He's produced quarterbacks, though.
I guess. I don't know. But so you think Drones is out the door after this year from VT?
I don't know. I can't. It's hard to say. I don't think our NIL is nothing impressive. I think he would be open to anything if you threw him enough money. And Drones would be considered.
It would be nice to see him at an offense that like molded itself a little more to his strengths.
It's wild that they haven't done more with him this year. His touchdown rate is higher, and he's barely outproduced his 2023 season.
Yeah.
But did you see all the news about Peyton Thorne and Hank Brown?
I did. Unfortunately, you guys are on a bye this week, so no chance of getting props.
It's too out there. Why does anybody know where Walker White is, the freshman?
I think it's just like a true freshman thing. Like it's just not happening.
True freshman quarterbacks play all the time. How do we not see him on the field once?
I'm sure you read more about him than I do. Everything that I've read is just like he's just not ready at all.
I know he's raw, but come on, like what are we doing?
I hear you. But I have a question for you. Who is more likely to get benched in game this week, Eli Holstein or Calandria?
Calandria. There's no way I would come close to betting it over on Calandria.
Both of them have gotten not benched. I guess
Calandria got
pulled the
bench because of just the blowouts. Not really a true benching. But the problem is Tony Muskett's numbers have been good.
And same with Yarnell.
I think there's two different scenarios here, right? Holstein's clearly hurt. So, like, you could see him benched because he's just hurt and ineffective. And then with Calandria, I think it's legitimately he's not good right now. Like, he's just not good right now.
Right. Yeah, I think you're pretty spot on.
Do you think that they would avoid benching him, though, because Muskett's old and Calandria's young and cool?
No, I think they love Muskett.
Yeah, but if they bench Calandria, what are the chances he comes back?
Depends on the bag.
There's no bag at Virginia.
In Seaville, dude?
Dude, there's no... What's a Thomas Jefferson, anyways? I feel like I don't know dollar bills enough, but I don't think Jefferson's are high. This is one of those weeks. The number for Calandria is pretty high. Have you seen what his number is at passing yards?
Yeah. It's like 280 and 240 for those two.
Yeah, Calandria's is like I want to say I saw like a 250, but yeah, Holstein's is high for sure. And then Calandria hasn't come close to hitting 250 in like a month and a half.
Yeah, I've bet his under a few times. Initially, I was betting over on him to start the year, and it didn't work out amazingly. But I've transitioned to more under approach with him, and it's worked out pretty well. I bet under on both of them for this week, hoping we get at least one benching, and then like when was the last time Holstein played well? It's been like the Syracuse. The only reason they won that Syracuse game is because McCord threw to the wrong team 6 times. And the week before that, he was bad too. He was bad against Cal.
Is a little bit about that though, like the fact that he's been hurt / not needed.
The hurt thing. So you're referencing him being hurt, but is this the source of this is him leaving the end of the Syracuse game, right?
Well, and him like being considered questionable last week.
Yeah, that is a very weird scenario. Like it's unclear like what exactly is / was going on with him. If it was a concussion, like it
was a lower body. Nobody knows. Yeah, I've tried to find out what the actual injury was, but I haven't seen anything.
Nardi, the Nard dog.
Franchise's favorite person.
Indeed.
So awesome. Well, any final thoughts or takeaways for us here?
No. Week is off to a good start from a betting perspective. I thank you for bullying me into bumping up my unit level. We're off to a 7-1 start on props so far, so no complaints. Hopefully it keeps rolling into the weekend.
Yeah, we'll see. Talk to me on Sunday morning and let me know how that goes. I know how that goes.
Yeah.
But awesome. Well, I hope everybody enjoys the midweek action that's still left as you're hearing this, and the large slate of games on Saturday. We get a game past 8:30 start time, which is nice for Andrew. And hope everybody has a good one, enjoys the games, and we'll maybe catch you for 4 in a row or 4 out of the 5, depending on facts. So have a good one, guys.